My parents made me pay rent at 16 while my sister lived free until 28. Then they claimed my house, but my firm response erased their smug smiles. I'm Jake, 32, male. And I need to tell you about how my parents spent 16 years teaching me responsibility, while my sister learned absolutely nothing except how to be a professional mooch. And now they have the audacity to show up at my door demanding I hand over my house to her because she needs stability. The kicker? In exchange for giving up the house I busted my ass to buy, they're generously offering to let me rent a room in their house at a family discount. I wish I was making this up. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood because context matters here. When I turned 16, my parents sat me down for what they called a family meeting. You know how family meetings always mean someone's about to get screwed? Yeah, this was one of those. My dad cleared his throat all serious-like and said they'd been thinking about my future, about teaching me real-world skills and financial responsibility. I remember sitting there thinking maybe they were going to help me open a bank account or teach me about investing. Nope. These geniuses decided the best way to prepare me for adult life was to charge me $300 monthly rent at 16 while I was still in high school. It's not about the money, Mom said, doing that fake sympathetic voice. It's about preparing you for the real world. You'll thank us later. I was making $8.50 an hour at Burger King, working maybe 20 hours a week because that's all they'd give a high school kid. Do the math. I was bringing home like $600 a month before taxes, and they wanted half of it for the privilege of living in the bedroom I'd had since I was 5 years old. The same bedroom with a broken closet door they never fixed, and the water stain on the ceiling from when the toilet upstairs leaked. Here's where it gets really good. My sister Vanessa, who was 14 at the time, sat through this whole meeting with this smug little smile when I asked if she'd have to pay rent too when she turned 16. My dad actually laughed. Your sister's situation is different, he said. We'll assess things when the time comes. Spoiler alert, the time came and went. Vanessa turned 16, 17, 18. Graduated high school, started community college, dropped out, picked up a few part-time jobs here and there, never paid a single cent in rent. She lived at home completely free until she was 28 years old, 2008. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to teenage me trying to figure out how the hell to survive on $300 a month while going to school full-time. I couldn't do sports anymore. No time. Couldn't do any extracurriculars. My social life became non-existent because I was either at school, at work, or doing homework. Meanwhile, Vanessa was on the cheerleading squad, going to parties, getting her gas paid for, phone bill covered, insurance handled. When I brought up the blatant favoritism, my parents hit me with the classics. Life isn't fair. Stop being jealous of your sister. This is what we've decided is best. Our house, our rules. The double standards weren't subtle either. When I was 17, I got into a minor fender bender, completely the other driver's fault. Police report proved it. My parents made me pay the $500 insurance deductible out of my own pocket and grounded me for a month for being irresponsible. When Vanessa was 19, she totaled Mom's car doing donuts in a grocery store parking lot. Completely her fault. Got a reckless driving ticket. My parents bought her a newer, better car and said it was a learning experience that we shouldn't dwell on. I wanted to take a girl to prom. Had to pay for tickets, dinner, and the tux rental myself. Ended up working double shifts for 2 weeks to afford it. Vanessa went to 3 proms, including 2 at schools she didn't even attend, and my parents footed the bill for dresses, shoes, hair, makeup, limo, everything. When I pointed out the hypocrisy, Mom said, "Prom is more important for girls. It's different." Christmas was always a joke, too. I'd get practical gifts, socks, a new work uniform, maybe a $50 Walmart gift card if I was lucky. Vanessa would get designer purses, expensive electronics, clothes from stores I couldn't afford to walk into. One year I got a pack of batteries and a $25 Amazon card. Vanessa got a MacBook Pro and AirPods. When I made a comment about it, Dad said she needed it for school. She dropped out 3 months later. The MacBook became a Netflix machine. Every single achievement I had got the bare minimum acknowledgement. Made honor roll? That's nice, honey. Got a promotion at work? Good for you. Got accepted to community college? We're proud of you, said with all the enthusiasm of someone reading a takeout menu. Meanwhile, Vanessa got a C+ in algebra, and they took her out to Red Lobster to celebrate her improvement. She posted on Instagram once and got 50 likes. Mom printed it out and put it on the fridge like it was a freaking Pulitzer Prize. I graduated high school with a 3.7 GPA while working 30 hours a week. My graduation gift was a $50 Visa gift card and a reminder that rent was still due on the 1st of the month. I couldn't afford to go away to college, so I enrolled in the same community college Vanessa would later drop out of. Kept living at home because I literally couldn't afford anything else, and kept paying that $300 monthly rent like clockwork. My parents raised it to $400 when I turned 20. Inflation, my dad said, like that made it reasonable. I worked full-time overnight at a warehouse while taking classes during the day. I'd come home at 7 a.m., sleep until noon, go to class, do homework, eat dinner, and head back to work. Rinse and repeat. I was a zombie for 2 years straight, but I graduated with my associate's degree and not a single dollar of debt. Vanessa? She was working part-time at a boutique, spending her paychecks on clothes and concert tickets, coming home whenever she felt like it, still rent-free, still getting her car insurance paid, still getting an allowance, yes, an allowance at 21 years old, for helping around the house, which consisted of occasionally loading the dishwasher. I moved out the week after I got my associate's degree. Found this hole-in-the-wall apartment 40 minutes away. $650 a month for a studio with a kitchenette that barely fit a hot plate, but it was mine. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't paying someone else's mortgage while living under their rules. My parents were actually offended when I told them I was leaving. After everything we've done for you, Mom said, we taught you responsibility and this is how you repay us, Dad added. I didn't even respond, just loaded up my beat-up Honda Civic with the 3 boxes of stuff I owned and left. For the next few years, I kept my head down and worked my ass off. Got a job in warehouse logistics, worked my way up to supervisor, then operations manager. Started taking night classes for my bachelor's degree. Lived cheap as hell. Rice and beans became my best friends. No cable, no streaming services, no going out. Every extra dollar went into savings or toward tuition. My contact with my family became minimal. I'd show up for Christmas and Thanksgiving because Mom would guilt-trip me about being too good for your own family now. These dinners were always the same. They'd ask me surface-level questions about work. I'd give surface-level answers, and then they'd spend the rest of the meal talking about Vanessa. Vanessa got a new job that she'd quit in 3 months. Vanessa started dating someone who'd be gone by Easter. Vanessa is thinking about going back to school. Narrator, she was not. I was 27 when I finally landed my big break. A buddy from work told me his company was hiring for a regional operations director position. It was a stretch for me experience-wise, but I applied anyway. Studied my ass off for the interviews, apparently knocked it out of the park and got the job. Salary was $85,000, more than double what I'd been making. For the first time in my life, I had actual money. Not maybe I can afford the name brand cereal money. Real I can save for a house money. I kept living cheap though, still had the same shitty apartment, still drove my Honda with 200,000 miles on it, kept my expenses low and saved aggressively. My CO workers thought I was insane, living like I was broke when I was making good money, but I had a plan. Vanessa, meanwhile, was still living at home at 27, still rent-free. She'd bounced between probably 15 different jobs at this point, retail, restaurants, reception work, some kind of social media thing that wasn't actually a job. My parents enabled every single bit of it. She's trying to find her passion, Mom would say. Not everyone's path is the same, Dad would add. When I turned 29, I bought my house. Not some starter condo or townhouse, an actual 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a garage and a yard. Nothing fancy, but it was in a decent neighborhood with good schools. Thinking ahead, you know. The mortgage was less than what I'd been paying in rent for that whole studio. I closed on the house in December. Didn't tell my parents until it was done. Signed, sealed, keys in hand. Figured they'd either try to talk me out of it or find some way to make it about them. When I finally mentioned it at Christmas dinner, you'd think I'd announced I was joining a cult. Mom's fork literally stopped halfway to her mouth. You bought a house? Yep. Closed last week. How did you afford that? Dad demanded, like I'd robbed a bank. I saved, worked hard. You know, all that responsibility you taught me. Dad's face went red. You should have told us. We could have helped you look, given you advice. Why would I want advice from people who think charging a teenager rent is good parenting? That shut him up real quick. Mom wasn't done. How much did you put down? What's your mortgage rate? Did you get it inspected? She was firing off questions like she had any right to know my financial situation. That's not your concern. We're your parents. Of course it's our concern. Really? Because you weren't concerned about my finances when you were taking $400 a month from me while I was trying to save for my future. Vanessa, who'd been quiet up to this point, decided to chime in. Must be nice to have parents who taught you how to save money. The victim complex was strong with this one. You had the same parents, I shot back. They just made different choices about which one of us needed to learn responsibility. The look on their faces was worth every ramen dinner and canceled weekend plan from the past decade. But here's the thing. They weren't happy for me. They were pissed. Like genuinely angry that I'd managed to buy a house without their help or involvement. No congratulations. No, we're proud of you. Just this weird combination of anger and offense that I'd done something significant without including them. You didn't think to consult us first? Mom asked. Why would I? I'm 30 years old. Family discusses big decisions together. Oh, like how we discussed you charging me rent at 16? That family discussion? Yeah, that killed the conversation pretty quick. Vanessa, who was sitting there scrolling through her phone, barely looked up. Must be nice, she muttered. Over the next 2 years, I settled into my house and my life. Got promoted again. Now I'm pulling $110,000 as a senior director. Started dating a great woman named Riley, who's a civil engineer. Got a dog. Basically living the stable, boring adult life I'd worked toward for 15 years. My parents and I maintained minimal contact. I'd see them at holidays. We'd have our superficial conversations. I'd leave. They never visited my house. Never asked about my life beyond house work. I was fine with it. Meanwhile, Vanessa finally moved out at 28. Not because she got her shit together, because my parents told her they were converting her room into my dad's home office. She moved in with her boyfriend of 4 months, some dude who managed a vape shop. That relationship imploded in 6 weeks, shocking absolutely no one. She ended up in a sketchy apartment complex on the bad side of town, working part-time at a call center and doing some kind of MLM thing on the side. My parents were constantly bailing her out with rent, utilities, car payments. She'd call them crying about how hard life was and they'd Venmo her money within the hour. The MLM thing was particularly embarrassing. She got sucked into one of those wellness companies selling overpriced supplements, posted constantly on social media about being a boss babe and living my best life while barely making minimum wage, tried to recruit me once through a Facebook message. You'd be perfect for this, Jake. You're so good with business. Yeah, I'm good with business because I have an actual job with a salary and benefits, not because I hustle scented candles to my high school friends. She bounced between MLMs like some people change socks, wellness products, makeup, leggings, that weird diet coffee thing. Each time convinced it would be the one that made her rich. Each time failing spectacularly and moving on to the next scam. My parents funded every single one. Starter kits, inventory, those ridiculous conferences where they convince you you're going to be a millionaire if you just work harder. This went on for about 18 months. I heard about it through the grapevine. Mom would occasionally mention it in that martyred way of hers, looking for sympathy about how expensive it was to help Vanessa, talking about their financial struggles while simultaneously enabling the person causing those struggles. I never offered to help. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Then last month, everything came to a head. I was working from home on a Tuesday afternoon when my doorbell rang. My dog went ballistic as he does. I checked the camera and saw my parents' car in my driveway, both of them standing on my porch looking uncomfortable. I hadn't seen them since Christmas and it was now April. This couldn't be good. I opened the door. Hey, what's going on? Can we come in? Dad asked. We need to talk to you about something. Every alarm bell in my head started ringing, but I let them in because I was morbidly curious about what could possibly bring them to my door unannounced. We sat in my living room, me on one couch, them on the other. Mom kept looking around at my furniture, my TV, the photos on the wall. Dad was doing that thing where he clears his throat repeatedly before speaking. So he finally started. We wanted to talk to you about your sister. What about her? She's been going through a really hard time lately. Mom jumped in. Her apartment building is being sold and she's being evicted. She lost her job at the call center. She's struggling, Jake. Okay, that sucks for her. We were hoping, Dad continued, that we could work something out as a family. The word family always signals incoming bullshit. I leaned back and crossed my arms. Work what out? Mom took a deep breath. You have this big house, 3 bedrooms, and you only use 1. We thought maybe Vanessa could move in with you, just temporarily, until she gets back on her feet. I actually laughed. No, Jake, please, Mom pleaded. She's your sister. Family helps family. Like, you helped me at 16 by charging me rent? That kind of family help? Dad's jaw tightened. That was different. That was about teaching you responsibility. I know. And what exactly were you teaching Vanessa by letting her live rent-free for 12 years? This isn't about the past, Mom said. This is about your sister needing help right now. She can get a roommate. Check out some ads. That's what normal people do. She can't afford rent anywhere, even with a roommate, Dad said. Everything is so expensive now. Yeah, it is. Maybe if she'd learned some financial responsibility earlier, she'd be better prepared for that. The looks on their faces. Man, I wish I'd taken a picture. But Mom recovered first. Actually, she said, exchanging a glance with Dad, we had a different idea. A better solution for everyone. Here's where it got truly insane. What if, Mom continued slowly, Vanessa lived in this house? Like permanently, I blinked. What? Hear us out, Dad said quickly. This house is perfect for her. 3 bedrooms, nice neighborhood. She needs stability, a real chance to get her life together. So you want me to let her live here rent-free while I... What? Continue paying the mortgage? No, Mom said. We were thinking you could sign the house over to her. Give her a fresh start. The silence that followed was deafening. My dog, sensing the tension, came and sat at my feet. You want me to give her my house? I said slowly, making sure I was hearing this correctly. We'd make it worth your while, Dad added quickly. You could move back home with us. We'd only charge you $400 a month, way less than your mortgage. You'd save so much money. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You want me to give Vanessa the house I saved for 10 years to buy, the house I worked 60-hour weeks to afford, the house I lived like a monk to save for. And in exchange you'll let me pay you to live in my childhood bedroom again, the same room I paid rent on from 16 to 22. Is that what you're actually proposing right now? When you put it like that, you make it sound bad, Mom said. We're trying to help both of you. Vanessa gets stability and you get to save money. It's a win-win. How the freak is this a win for me? Language. Dad snapped like I was still a kid he could discipline. Answer the question. How is giving away my house that I bought with my own money and paying you rent again possibly a win for me? You're being selfish, Mom said, her voice getting that sharp, judgmental edge. Your sister is going to be homeless and you're sitting here in this big house all alone. That I worked for. That I earned. That I bought with money I saved while you were bankrolling Vanessa's lifestyle for over a decade. We helped you, too, Dad argued. By charging me rent as a teenager? That's your idea of help? We taught you responsibility. And what did you teach her? Silence. No, seriously, I pressed. What life lessons was Vanessa learning while living rent-free until 28, while you paid her car insurance and gave her money whenever she asked? What responsibility did she learn? She had a harder time adjusting to adulthood, Mom said weakly. Because you never made her adjust. You cushioned every fall, funded every failure, and now you're asking me to continue that pattern by giving her my freaking house. Jake, please, Mom started. Get out. What? Get out of my house now. You're not even going to consider it? Dad asked, standing up. Consider it. You came to my house, the house I bought myself without a cent of help from either of you, and asked me to hand it over to your favorite child who's never worked for anything in her life. And you thought I'd consider it? You're delusional, both of you. We raised you better than this, Mom said, tears forming. No, you didn't. You raised me to work for what I want and expect nothing from anyone. Congratulations. The lesson stuck. Now get the freak out. They left, but not before Dad turned at the door and said, You're going to regret this. I already regret letting you in. The door slammed. I watched through the window as they got in their car, clearly arguing, then drove away. I poured myself a drink and sat on my couch for a solid hour processing what had just happened. The sheer audacity, the complete lack of self-awareness, the fact that they genuinely thought I'd go for this insane plan. Riley came over that evening and I told her everything. She was speechless, then angry, then speechless again. They're joking, right? She finally asked. Like, this is some kind of test. I wish. I don't even have words for how fucked up that is. Welcome to my family. For the next week, my phone blew up. Texts from Mom about how I was tearing the family apart. Voicemails from Dad about how disappointed he was in me. Even got a few messages from Vanessa herself calling me a selfish asshole who doesn't care about family. The texts from Mom were particularly unhinged. Started off with the standard guilt trip, I didn't raise you to be this cold, then escalated to straight-up manipulation. I hope you can sleep at night knowing your sister is suffering. By day 3, she was sending me apartment listings with notes like, see, $1,200 per month. She can't afford this, but you could help. Dad's voicemails were this weird mix of disappointment and anger. His voice would crack like he was about to cry, then he'd get pissed and start yelling about respect and gratitude. One message was literally 7 minutes of him listing everything they'd done for me growing up, conveniently forgetting the part where I paid them thousands of dollars in rent before I was old enough to vote. Vanessa's messages were the most predictable, pure victim mentality. I can't believe you'd do this to me. I thought you loved me. Mom and Dad are right, you've changed. Like I was the villain in her story for not funding her lifestyle. I blocked them all. Mom, Dad, Vanessa. Blocked. Felt freaking great, honestly. The extended family got involved. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't talked to in years suddenly had opinions about my obligation to help Vanessa. Group texts I wasn't part of got screenshotted and sent to me about what a terrible brother I was being. My Aunt Linda, who I'd maybe spoken to twice in 5 years, sent me this long-ass text about how family is supposed to support each other through hard times. This is the same woman who refused to let her own nephew stay with her for 2 weeks when he was between apartments. But sure, tell me about family support, Linda. Cousin Marcus, who borrowed $2,000 from me 3 years ago and never paid it back, had the balls to text me saying I was acting like money is more important than family. I reminded him about the loan. He said that was different. Of course it was. My other Aunt Patricia left me a voicemail literally crying about how heartbroken she was that I'd turned my back on Vanessa. She's blood, Jake. Blood. Really touching, Patricia. So touching that you're willing to let her move into your house, right? No, didn't think so. The group text situation was insane. Someone would screenshot a conversation talking about me and send it to me, I guess thinking I'd be shamed into compliance. One thread had my mom saying I forgot where I came from and needed to be reminded about the importance of family. Another had dad saying I'd always been selfish and this was just proof. The funny thing? Not one of them offered to let Vanessa live with them. Not one offered to help her financially. They were all perfectly comfortable volunteering my house and my resources, but their own? Off limits. Aunt Linda had a 4-bedroom house with just her and her husband. Cousin Marcus had a basement apartment sitting empty. Patricia had a mother-in-law suite over her garage, but none of them stepped up. Easier to pressure me than to actually help themselves. I responded to the family group chat with one message. Anyone who thinks I should give Vanessa my house is welcome to give her theirs. Otherwise, shut the freak up and mind your business. That caused quite the stir. Got me uninvited from a few family events. No big loss. Aunt Linda's husband sent me a private message saying I was out of line and owed everyone an apology. I blocked him too. Cousin Marcus called me bitter and said I needed therapy. This from a guy who'd been engaged 4 times and still lived with his mom at 35. The best part? Uncle Steve told me that after my message, the family group chat went silent for about 6 hours. Then people started quietly dropping out of the conversation. Guess nobody wanted to volunteer their own resources once I called them on their bullshit. 2 weeks later, Mom called from a number I didn't have blocked. I answered without thinking. Jake, thank God. Listen, we need to talk about this situation. There's no situation. The answer is no. It was no then, it's no now, it'll be no tomorrow. Your sister is living in her car right now. Her car, Jake. That sucks. Maybe she should get a job. Maybe 2 jobs. Seems to work for most people. How can you be so cold? How can you be so blind? You created this situation. You raised her to believe she'd always be rescued. Well, congratulations. She's an adult now and still waiting for someone to save her. But it's not going to be me. What if we made a different arrangement? Mom asked desperately. What if she paid you rent like a regular tenant? Does she have money for rent, a job, references, first and last month's deposit? Because those are my requirements for tenants. You know she doesn't. Then I guess she needs to figure it out like everyone else. Jake, I'm done with this conversation. Don't call me again unless it's an actual emergency. And no, Vanessa's self-inflicted problems don't count as emergencies. I hung up. Blocked that number too. A few days later, I got a Facebook message from Vanessa herself. Long rambling thing about how hurt she was, how she couldn't believe her own brother would turn his back on her, how she'd always looked up to me and thought I was better than this. That last part made me laugh out loud. Looked up to me? She'd spent our entire childhood enjoying advantages I never got, watching our parents bend over backward for her while I worked my ass off, and she thought she looked up to me? I responded with one line. You could have learned from my example at any point. You chose not to. That's not my problem. Blocked her too. Riley asked me one night if I felt guilty. We were sitting on my back deck watching the sunset. Honestly? No, I told her. I spent 16 years of my life being told my needs didn't matter, that I had to sacrifice for the family, that I needed to be responsible while Vanessa got to be whatever she wanted. I'm done sacrificing. I'm done being responsible for other people's choices. I think you're handling this exactly right, she said. Your family is toxic as hell. Yeah, took me long enough to see it. About a month after the initial blow-up, my Uncle Steve, Dad's brother, reached out. He was always the reasonable one in the family. Asked if I'd be willing to meet him for coffee just to talk. No ambush, no pressure. I agreed, mostly because Uncle Steve had been decent to me growing up. He'd slipped me money for gas a few times when I was struggling. Never told my parents. Good dude. We met at a Starbucks halfway between our houses. He bought the coffee. My first sign this might not be a setup, so he started once we sat down. Your parents are pissed at me. Yeah? Why? Because I told them they're completely out of line. I nearly choked on my latte. You did? Hell yes I did, Jake. What they asked you to do is insane. I want you to know that. Thank you, Jesus, thank you. I was starting to think I was the crazy one. You're not. They are. He leaned back in his chair. You know what your dad told me? He said they charged you rent as a kid to teach you the value of money, but the real reason? They needed the money. Your mom lost her job that year and they were struggling with the mortgage. That hit me like a truck. What? Yeah. They used your rent money to help cover bills. Told themselves it was a valuable life lesson to make themselves feel better about it. Are you freaking kidding me right now? Wish I was. And Vanessa. They let her live free because your mom felt guilty. Thought she'd been too hard on you and wanted to do things differently with your sister. Overcompensated like crazy. So I got screwed because they were broke, and she got spoiled because they felt guilty. That's what you're telling me. That's exactly what I'm telling you. And now they've created this monster who can't function as an adult. And instead of dealing with the consequences of their shitty parenting, They want you to fix it. That's not happening. Good. Don't let them guilt you. You earned everything you have. You don't owe them or Vanessa a damn thing. We talked for another hour. Uncle Steve filled me in on more family drama. Apparently, several relatives thought my parents were way out of line but didn't want to say anything and rock the boat. Typical family dynamics. Everyone knows something's wrong. Nobody wants to address it. He also told me Vanessa had finally gotten a full-time job at a call center, different from the last one, found a roommate situation in a not-terrible apartment, and was actually functioning like an adult for the first time in her life. She's pissed at you, Uncle Steve said. Blames you for everything. Of course she does. Taking responsibility would require self-awareness. Fair point. But between you and me, having her support system cut off might be the best thing that ever happened to her. Maybe. Time will tell. I haven't talked to my parents since that phone call. It's been 3 months now, longest I've ever gone without contact. And honestly, I feel lighter. No more obligation to show up for holidays where I'm treated like an afterthought. No more listening to them praise Vanessa's bare minimum efforts while ignoring my actual accomplishments. No more being the family ATM or safety net. Riley and I are talking about getting engaged. She's moving in next month. We're going to use that third bedroom as a home office, the same bedroom my parents wanted me to give to Vanessa for free. She's been incredible through this whole thing. Honestly, never once questioned my decision. Never suggested I should try to mend fences or give them another chance. She comes from a functional family where people actually respect boundaries, so watching my family's dysfunction unfold was like watching a nature documentary for her, fascinating in a horrifying way. Your sister is almost 30 and acts like she's 16, Riley said one night after another barrage of guilt trip texts. Your parents enabled that. They're mad because you won't continue enabling it. This isn't complicated. She was right. It wasn't complicated. My family just wanted to make it complicated so I'd feel guilty enough to give in. Riley also pointed out something I hadn't fully considered. If you give her the house, it doesn't end there. She'll need help with property taxes, with maintenance, with utilities. It never ends with people like her. You'd be signing up for a lifetime of funding her existence. Damn straight. Giving Vanessa my house wouldn't have been a one-time gesture of family love. It would have been the start of a never-ending financial obligation. Because Vanessa doesn't just need a house, she needs someone to subsidize her entire lifestyle forever. Work is going great. I'm up for another promotion that would put me over $130,000, looking at investment properties on the side, living the life I worked my ass off to build. Riley and I are planning a vacation to Japan next spring, something I never could have done when I was paying my parents' bills disguised as rent. I ran into an old high school friend last week who asked why I wasn't on Facebook anymore. I deleted it after the family drama, told him a simplified version of what happened. His response, dude, your family sounds toxic as hell. Good for you for cutting them off. Yeah. Good for me. My parents tried the guilt trip one more time, showed up at my house on Thanksgiving unannounced with Vanessa in tow. I watched from my doorbell camera as they rang 3 times, knocked, rang again. Riley and I were literally inside watching them through the camera, eating Thai food and watching movies. After about 5 minutes, I saw my dad pull out his phone. Mine rang, didn't answer. Then Riley's phone rang. They'd somehow gotten her number. She answered on speaker. This is Riley. Riley, hi, it's Jake's mother. We're outside the house. We know you both are in there. We just want to talk. He doesn't want to talk to you. Please leave. This is between family. I'm going to be his family soon, and I'm telling you to leave before we call the police for trespassing. You can't be serious. Riley hung up, looked at me. Should we actually call the cops? Give them 5 minutes to leave on their own. They left in 3. Haven't heard from them since. Uncle Steve told me Vanessa kept the call center job and actually got promoted to team lead. She's apparently doing okay, living within her means for the first time in her life. He thinks the tough love approach might have worked. Maybe it did. Not my concern anymore.